Hello, welcome to Feck TV. This is our one-off budget special. It's an issue that's been getting the Irish people in a bit of a tiz of late. A lot of the issue come down to whether or not people actually want to pay the dreaded property tax. The show today is going to be joined by myself, Chris Bennett, Jay Kelly and Brid Heffernan.
Now, I'd like to begin by advising Chris Bennett that we are doing a property tax special,
we are doing a property
not a
tax
budget special.
Don't really know why I said that, but we'll carry on going. Now, I've got a first question. Is the tax ruthless, Jay?
First of all, good to see that you've regained your credibility by knowing that it was property tax.
Thanks very much.
Is the tax ruthless? Okay, look, if we're going to be somewhat even and fair and balanced about this, it's not, you know, draconian, ruthless in the sense of, I don't know, Syria. But it's a ridiculous tax. I mean, I know all the arguments in favour of it, that Ireland's the only OECD country that doesn't have a property tax. Sure. That doesn't necessarily mean a property tax is a good thing, or that taxing people more and taking more out of their income and more from their spending power is a good thing.
I mean, that jumps in. I mean, this is the point that Michael Noonan made himself, that the revenue, this is a quote from him, the revenue know how to collect the tax, they will be collecting the tax, and they're also being mandated as well to collect the arrears on the household charge. So this is all about how the tax can now be deducted from wages, from people's pensions, from their social welfare, and a failure to pay will lead to an audit.
Yeah, well, this is it. I mean, like, certainly in terms of the collection of tax in this country, it's a new departure, and I don't know, it's got a real whiff of Big Brother to it as well, you know, that, I mean, it's almost like if Liam Neeson in the movie Taken decided that he was going to collect tax and he was just picking up the phone to the Irish householder saying something, what's his line?
I've got a very special set of skills.
I've got a very special set of tax collection skills, you know, I will hunt you down, I will find you, and I will take that tax.
This new bill that's proposed, the new property tax reform or whatever it is, bill of 2012, it says that the revenue commissioners can come into your home and look at it to make sure that you've put yourself in the right grade, that you've said the house is worth what it is worth, so you can't undervalue your house. And there's fines of up to €3,000 if you've undervalued your house, which is pretty scary, because a revenue commissioner can come in and, sure, Jesus, you thought yourself it was only worth feckle, not a whole lot, and then the revenue commissioners are coming in saying, actually, we're going to have to fine you more. It just seems scary, really.
Oh, it is. And look, I mean, one of the things about it is that I think it's creating a very different climate, or that once it's actually enacted, if it is pursued in the way that it's being put forward to us, which is this very secret police kind of way, that we will go into your homes, we're going to check everything out, we're going to rate the value of everything, you can't get away with anything whatsoever. I think it's going to be honest with you, I think it's going to backfire on them. I think you're going to get a point where people would just prefer to get rid of stuff and let things deteriorate a little bit rather than hand over the money.
I mean, we don't have enough social welfare inspectors to go around and check are people who are claiming the dole actually unemployed and things. Yet apparently we can send the revenue commissioners around to assess everyone's house. It just makes no sense. Like, the government have been accused of ignoring the fundamental canon of taxation law, which is, creating a tax even though people have got no ability to pay it. But at the end of the day, I'm still harping on about how we are the only country in the OECD. You look around the streets, there are people shopping. I think that all this hype about people having less than €100 a month
are we going
is
to get to
actually
a point
exaggerated.
like we did with the household charges, where people are actually going to refuse to pay, boycott the tax, essentially? I mean, we went out onto the streets of Cork and actually took a vox pop for some of the local people. We can have a look at that now and see what the actual reactions were. Hello, welcome to TV. This is our one.
Guys, any opinions on the budget? Any predictions?
I haven't got €3,000 to give them anyway.
It's completely unjust. Wrong tax at the wrong time. There's no need to be bringing in this property tax this time. People have the money to afford it, and now they're going to apply a penalty to people. Disgrace.
Any opinion on the property tax and the revenue commissioners coming in?
Oh, we don't like it. I think we're paying enough already, I do in the current climate, and I think they have a cheek to think that they can come into people's houses, But I suppose, what can you do? Can you say no?
Was a bill published yesterday? I know,
There's enough trouble. I don't think we need any more.
I've already paid my property tax. I don't intend on paying it again.
No, I wouldn't agree with it.
You let them in?
No.
Well, I presume there'll be professionals and that they'll judge the thing properly. I mean, I'm not suspicious of them. I sort of think they'll do a proper job. I hope they will anyway.
We will pay it, but it will make our household expenses very difficult to pay, to be honest.
Okay, cool. Will you pay the property tax?
Oh no, we're not paying it at all.
Fair play, you're rebels.
Looking at the faces there from the people on the street, it seems that there's a lot of negativity towards this tax in terms of people not actually being able to pay. And that's one thing I want to come into now. Second question really is, can Ireland afford it? Now, looking at the Central Statistics Office from sort of the last couple of years, you've got an average weekly wage of about 885 euros. You've got an average weekly spend, though, of about 810. Working through it all, it comes out with people having about 69 euros left a week, and this is before the property tax comes in. You've also got 400,000 people living in negative equity, 170,000 people who can't actually pay their mortgage, and then you're dropping the property tax on top of this. My question really to you, Jay, is can Ireland actually afford this?
No, it can't. Look, the big irony, or the big paradox rather, about this whole situation with Ireland is that the debt in general is a debt that can't be afforded. So, I mean, let's say this property tax is being collected from the point of view that we have to pay off this massive debt to the Troika and to Europe. Now, Ireland can never pay that debt off. So, doing something like this, having the property tax, insofar as I can see, it's kind of like the government are trying to empty water off the deck of the Titanic with an old Wellington boot that has a hole in it.
You can hold your wish.
Hang on a sec. Brid,
Honestly, hold your wish. This is just more of our bail bucked things. I've worked as a solicitor for years, and I'm used to people coming in going, oh, I can't afford anything. But then you look at it at the end of the day, they died with €1 million in their current account. I mean, all of these people everywhere, there's lots of people out there with lots of money. It's just we're happier to cruise along, acting like we can't rub two pennies together. I think it's an Irish thing. I honestly do.
Do you know what?
There's money there, Jay. There's money there. And you look at those people in Cork City, oh, they couldn't afford a thing. Yet they all had 6 shopping bags hanging off of them.
Do you know what? Funnily enough, I agree with you about the whole bail buck thing. I actually do. I think you're dead right. There are people with money.
We enjoy misery.
Oh, no, yeah, there is this kind of, poor old me thing. That's maybe why, we didn't have the balls to get independence for 800 years. That's possible. Here's the crucial thing, though. You have to look at the practicalities, okay? And the practicalities of the situation, and we have a very good marker from it from the 1980s, funnily enough. People will have money, but they'll send it abroad. You'll have an issue of capital flight, it's called in economics, that if people are being taxed too much, or if they find that that they don't have faith in what's going to happen to their money, they'll send it abroad. They will stick it in a mattress. They'll do anything they can to hang on to it because they don't have faith in what's going to happen to it, and that they don't believe it's just. And because maybe they're greedy as well. But the bottom line is, there isn't the money. The money won't be there to actually pay all of this stuff.
But Jay, they're just going to have to find the money, because unfortunately we need to move closer to a socialist sort of country. If we want things like the health service and the roads and things to be usable, we have to pay for them.
There on that one. I'm sorry to talk across you, but the truth of the matter is, we for years were putting more than enough money into these services. But it wasn't happening.
It went bust because we weren't putting enough money into them.
No, it didn't go bust because we weren't putting enough money in. We were putting plenty of money into the wrong places. It was completely inefficient. And one good thing about this whole situation here is that it's forcing a little bit of liposuction on this fat, bloated public sector. And that was the problem. It wasn't the amount of money that was going in. It was actually the fact that, the money was going on ridiculous little expenses.
Let me just jump in about the public sector. An interesting thing, Brid, to sort of counter your points here, that they've actually, a recent study only just this week has found that the net revenue that will actually be collected from the property tax, the government say it's 500 million. It's actually been realised it's more going to be like 350 million, and that's with reduced economic activity. Now, if that's the case, you've got next year annual public increments to public sector workers are going to cost us 700 million. Now that's less than, that's half of what's going in there. Now this property tax has been said that it's going to go to public services, yet you've got a bill there that, this doesn't even cover half of that. I mean, I get behind you in the fact that if the property tax was going into real things, fair enough. But I sort of, the argument be, where is this money actually going to go?
That's a real opposition argument. I think that's the only place I've heard this argument coming from. I do believe the government are giving this money, or whatever our property tax comes to, it will go to the local councils.
I don't think you're right at all. I think that's very naive, to be honest with you, Brid.
Jay. And it's the local authorities who are, who are tasked with enforcing it and getting the property tax off of people.
Speaking of the local authorities, they'll be able to get from from next year, the change of the rate up or down 15%. Now, do you think that that is ever going to be going down 15%, or do you think this, whatever we're at now, 0.18, is going to just be the thin end of the wedge?
Well, I would say it's probably going to be the thin end of the wedge already.
Yeah,
but
more
I do
than
see
likely.
it going into all these things. Like, we want
No,
parks,
I don't.
we want green areas,
Look,
we want clean things.
Look, let's be honest, you know, we had the money for all that kind of stuff in the past. There's talk of it going into, you know, parks, green areas, blah, blah, blah. That's not going to happen. I absolutely can promise you that in, let's say, 1 year's time, 2 years' time, however long you think the lag is going to be between the collection of the money and the use of the money, you will see no change in these public services whatsoever. You can mark my words on that. The money, I mean, it's good PR, it's good publicity to say that we're collecting this money for the people, but the truth of the matter, Brid, is that we're collecting it for the debt. What really needs to be focused on and what the energy really needs to be put into isn't coming up with all these different ways that the government can try and squeeze people more. It needs to be focused on cutting down the debt.
It's a tax. We have to pay it. I don't like it. I sure don't like it. I also don't like VAT, however, but we have to pay our taxes. And we need to convince the people of Ireland, you know, that you do have to pay your tax. It's such an Irish accepted thing to get away with what you can. The cute whore thing, it's so Irish. But no, we're going to have to pay it, and we need to instill in people's minds that everyone 100% is going to have to pay it. Okay. Because you see your neighbour getting away with it and you start going, which is actually interesting. Why there's so many mortgages in arrears. Apparently there's 500,000 mortgages in arrears. That's because everyone's looking around going, here, geez, we're getting away with this. And I've been advised by people not to pay a mortgage. So, I mean, you have people saying, you know, don't bother paying that. It's working for people. And the same with the property tax. We see 30% of people haven't paid, and the last of the cute words are starting to go, why would I, you know?
Okay, I'm going to jump in on this, Brid, because you've throughout your thing have been talking about paying the taxes and it needs to be a more socialist system. One thing that comes out of this, one thing that really angers people is the idea of that it's a geographic lottery. So you'll have urban homeowners paying up to half of this tax in 2014. You've got the Dublin average at about €405 compared to Longford at €90. You've also got these people who've paid massive amount of stamp duty on their houses, which have now fallen by up to a half in terms of real value. Now what you're doing is then putting a tax on top of those people again, whereas those guys out in the country whose property is essentially held its value are paying significantly less. Now, how can you go across and say that that is a fair tax?
It is, because it's the value of the house. It's across the board. If you choose to live in Dublin, this is what you're getting. If you choose to live in Dublin,
the value of that house at €400,000, say that you've paid €15,000 in stamp duty already, has now halved to €200,000, the same as a house over in Longford.
Nobody's ever going to be happy, but it's the fairest way to do it. I mean, if you want more and more exceptions,
but it's not actually effective. It's not intelligent, and it's not. Look, I actually agree with your point about paying tax in general. I mean, it has to be done just to maintain the country, just to maintain services. But this is ridiculous. This is not a tax. If there's any way not to pay it, then it should not be paid, because we're coming to a level where we can't actually do anymore. And what we're going to find is that once you tax people up to a certain point, they can't pay it anymore, so they won't pay it, and you'll find that revenues are going to drop again. And I mean, one way, for example, that it could drop is that you could have... No, Brid, I'm going to finish this. I started, so I am going to finish this one. But what you're going to find is that a lot more of the people who would be able to make money, who could pay the tax, are just going to say, look, you know, I'm earning, you know, like, we'll say $2,000 a month here in Ireland, and I'm paying so much in terms of tax, blah, blah, blah. All I have to do is get on a flight to London, go to Canada, go to Australia, go somewhere else, take my talent and my skills where I'm going to be paid in a way that I'm recognised properly, and also I'll have the status that I feel I deserve, none of which I'm getting here, and you'll find that the tax take is going to drop.
Fair point, Jay. Brid, come jumping in on this.
Typical Irish, the grass is always greener on the other side. That
but people are doing it. It's not a case of grass is greener. Brid.
Jay, I think that people are just going to have to reassess where they're spending their money. All those people that at the end of the week saying, I only have €40 left. I bet they'd have 60 or 70 if they didn't spend all that money on fags. I bet they have Sky Sports. I bet they have loads of unnecessary things in their lives which they don't need. I I have very little sympathy for somebody
But
saying
Brid,
they've no
you're
money
not
at the end
actually
of the week.
addressing the point that I made about people leaving the country, that people will leave. These are the kind of things that drive people out.
In fairness, though, Jay,
and that's true. We know this.
Jay, and the people who are leaving, in terms of their economic wealth, is significantly more than the people who are going to get hit by this the most, which is the middle section of the country. Now, those who can actually leave and take their money elsewhere, who can employ accountants,
but also take their talents. I'm not even
Jay,
just talking
honestly,
about the whole thing of
who
capital
has
flight.
actually left? All the labourers that we had on the dole anyway.
Look, Brid, plenty of people have left, not just the labourers, but also some of the most talented
Plenty
and brightest
who
people.
Want to go travelling. The only people who are actually going
not
anymore.
Not necessarily.
People who.
It's not just a case of travel. I think that you'll see that a lot of people are still going over to the city in London, but they'll only come back once things have crashed out and they can actually make some money here. Once it bottoms out.
Time. They're having their 2 years holidays and they're coming back.
And then leaving again. This is a phenomenon that's very
Jay,
common.
I'm sorry. There's work there for anyone who wants to work.
Okay, so look,
Brid, it's not just a case. You have to be realistic about this. You can't take somebody. Let's say you're a solicitor, yeah. That's your training. Now, if you found that you just couldn't find proper work as a solicitor, would you still go and work in Burger King, or would you say?
Yes, I would.
Brid, I
because
really
I've
doubt
got
it.
bloody balls. I'm sick and tired of people looking around the country going, "I'm so qualified, yet I can't get a job." Well, lower your bleeding standards, you absolute twit.
Brid, it's not going to happen. If you actually have to be realistic about what's going to happen and about what way things can work, people won't do it, and that's why people are going to go and just go on the dodge completely with things. They're going to try and skip tax as much as possible, and I think they're right. If you were doing that,
But
good for you.
This is it, and this is why I sort of agree with the bill that's coming in about the household charge, because it is tax and people are going to try to avoid it as much as possible. That's why we're going to have to give the revenue commissioners these draconian powers to gather it.
Yeah, but do you actually realise that once those powers are unleashed, then they can be used further and further and further again, and the next time there'll be another tax, and you're going to find that you'll come out with a wage package, of like €10 or something once it's all been paid.
These are the taxes that the EU IMF have suggested we impose on the country. And so far, in
that's
fairness,
why we need a stronger government to actually fight against it.
We hate the Troika, but they haven't said anything wrong. All the things that they've come in and said were pretty right.
I actually agree with you, as it happens on that. I think the Troika, in some ways, was one of the best things that has happened to this country. But another point to it is, a good thing actually about the Troika is it may force people to fight a little bit more. It may bring things to a point where they say enough is enough, because you can only kick a dog for so long before it's going to bite back.
Okay, look, guys, I don't think we're going to solve this here. They clearly haven't even solved it within the dole. They haven't done anything. There is a lack of debate on this issue, which is something that we want to try and put across the people, which is why we're out on the streets, getting the debate going, because this is something that has been rushed through Parliament and incredibly quickly, and it's something that does need a lot more further debate. Thank you very much for both being on. Keep this debate going online, on Facebook, on our website, and thanks for watching FakeTV.com.